So this morning we're looking at language development. When I spoke to Herman, we said, you know what, with the internet and parents around us and the parties we go to, we never measure up. Have you ever sat in a conversation where you feel, oh, I haven't done that. Wow, look at that family. They've got everything sorted. My heart today is really to show you, but you've got it. You've got the tools in your toolbox. Yes, we might put 1 and 2 extra ones in, but you already have what it takes. So I decided for a start to say little voices, big futures. Because when we start little, our children can reach far beyond the stars and the moon because we actually gave them the tools to succeed. So I always start off when we talk about language as imagine your little one building a Lego construction. I don't know whose children love Lego. By show of hands, do you have Lego in your house? So you've all stepped on a Lego block. Imagine they're starting off with a Lego construction. It's quite small. It's quite immature, isn't it? And then as they grow, it becomes bigger and more elaborate. That's our brains. When we are born, the brain is extremely immature. You know that. They can hardly make a sound. They know how to eat and sometimes sleep. As we grow, the brain actually builds. And every conversation that you have is a new bridge. Every word that they hear from their parents is a new building block into an extreme complex neurostructure, the brain. So, we're investing in our children the most precious commodity by speaking to them, by being present. You are your child's most important teacher, not the speech therapist, not the head of the school, not their teacher. You are. Because if they do not hear the truth from you, the world will tell them lies. Now we know this, but we always equate that to spiritual teachings, don't we? It's not the truth. It equates to everything in life. So, what do you need? Immediately, please take out your cell phones because I've got 100 apps for you to download. No, I'm joking. All you need is yourself, is already what God has put into you. In Philippians, we read that God will supply every need of yours according to his riches in glory and in Jesus Christ. Now, obviously here, Paul were talking to the church of the time and saying thank you for the materialistic and the financial support. But this is so much more. When you found out you were pregnant, you did not know that God already gave you the toolbox to raise this little being. We focus on, ooh, he's now as big as a plum. He's as big as an apple. But actually what's growing in you is not just another human being. It is knowledge. It is already preordained structures that you can be a parent. But no one tells us that. They just tell us we are not good enough because you haven't bought the most up-to-date toy from Fisher-Price. So, I want you to take out your phones. Obviously, it should be switched off. It should be on silent. I appreciate that. I want you to look at the last message you sent or the last call you made. And then have a think, why? Why did you make the call? Why did you send the message? It was to greet someone, it was to get information. In my case this morning, it was to plan my teenager social life. But it was to connect. Now, we communicate for a whole lot of different reasons, as do our children. The language foundation that professionally we build on says if you think about a pyramid, the base is interaction. Now, I've just asked you all to take out your phones. The biggest thief of interactions. We talk about interaction as the foundation of language, and that's that first moment when you looked in your child's eyes and saw, this is mine. And then they get older and you look at them and you want to squash them like a fly because they did not listen to you. But that's interaction. We then play. And we talk about comprehension. We teach them about the world. We teach them how to use a spoon. We teach them how to sleep. We teach them how to climb stairs. Later on, we teach them how to ride the bike. All of those interactions. Later on becomes an expression. Usually that's the measuring stick that schools focus on. How well can you speak? How well can you use words? How well can you make sentences? Look at that pyramid. It is definitely not the base of language. Those are the outcome of everything that you've already put in place. So, the first 5 years, by show of hands, can I see who's got children from 0 to 5? A lot of young mummies, a lot of tired dads. From 6 to 12. Okay, those are the more peaceful years, believe it or not. I've got teenagers, I can really vouch for that. And then who's got teenagers? High school kids. Fantastic, I love them. Now, if we have a look at the first 5 years, that's our critical window. The brain is extremely sensitive. It's got heightened sensitivity for learning. Brain development by age 5 has reached 90%. How scary is that? By age 3, there might be a 30 million word gap, based on research, between children that grew up in a household where they were spoken to, where language were richly explained, and it sounds formal, it definitely isn't, compared to a household where it's quiet, where the TV is on a lot of the time. 30 million word gap. Now, I'm going to put you in your child's world when they go to school, okay? Think about your little one goes to school, grade R, grade 0, grade 1. And all of a sudden, the curriculum has got an extremely high bar. I want you to listen to this, and then I might ask a few questions.
University district Aussie Portable Hex Passes from Pupi in Butterish, but had the master Pupi.
Okay, so I might ask you what's an electron. The engineers are not allowed to answer this. I might ask you, okay, so what will this new particle be used for? And you'll say to me, I've got no idea what they just said. Okay? Imagine your child in a classroom where teacher is using language that they don't understand. Now, not just that, they need to now understand more than, less than, before, after. Please give me the number bigger than 7. What is 7? I'm not even with the concept of bigger. I'm not even with the concept of math. And the way you just felt like, what on earth is she showing us? Imagine your child every day in a curriculum that's expecting so much of them. So how do we protect them? How do we strengthen them? Words matter. We started this morning saying that words has got power. And yes, from a spiritual point, absolutely. Therefore, put a God in front of your mouth. Word speaks life. But what if your words also bred success? What if what you did at home also made sure that your child does not feel lost in a classroom. Or if they feel a little lost, they can ask the teacher. So here, the research that I showed you, they call it the million-word gap, actually followed, because in America they can do things like this, they followed 42 families for 3 years. And they had a look at these 42 families, how they spoke to their children, the role of a dad in a house, the role of the mom from a language point of view. And by the age of 3, the 42 families that they followed that had language-rich environments, the children heard 1.4 million words more than the families that they just observed where language were not used a lot. Those families I have in my office that says to me, but we're not really talkers. We're fairly quiet. It shows us that it's not necessarily the 1.5 million words, different words. It's just that they've heard 1.4 million times words more than their counterparts. Now, that's a big number. My husband will attest to that I can reach that number. Within that, we talk about vocabulary. We talk about words, understanding of words. Now, what they showed is that vocab is the highest predictor of school readiness by the age 6. Not if you can do math, not if you can read. The amount of words that you understand and the amount of words that you use, the highest predictor of school readiness. So, is it that we just talking to our children? It's the quality that we use. So if you say to me, you know what, but we're not big on talking. Talking is really difficult for me. It's not about the word count. It's about the quality. So how do we do that? And this is the first tool for your toolbox this morning. We are all used to, you'll see the pink part there is business talk. That's me in the morning. Have you put your shoes on? Come on, I'm going to be late. Please get your bag. No, here's your jersey. It's cold outside. Have you had your breakfast? Is your teeth brushed? No, your hair is not done. Does it sound familiar or is it only my house? So here, it is business talk. Where's your shoes? It's what we need to actually get our lives sorted and just get from point A to B. 3 boys, extremely difficult. But there's more than that. There's more than just instructions. There's more than just giving our child guidelines. There's also elaborative talk. Now what that is, oh, look, there's a butterfly. Did you see its wings are yellow? You know what butterflies does, or what butterflies do. They actually become butterflies after they were pupae. Mummy, what on earth is a pupae? We're talking about elaborative talk. I wonder what it would be like to be a butterfly. Do you see I need to stand still and forget about my phone and my work and my deadlines? And just a small moment, I need to be present. We can't build that foundation of the pyramid without interaction. And interaction is not me sitting here and actually just reading everything like a book to you. Do you see immediately I've lost interaction with everyone? Because there's no face-to-face. There's no eye contact. How many times do actually we go down and actually make eye contact with our children? In my situation, I now say to my boys, that's this high, please sit down, I need to speak to you. We can use I wonder. Don't move on. Yes, there's a butterfly, it flew away. Extend what we were talking about what their friends did, about the lunch they had. And then model. We are all extremely good teachers. I think in a different life, everyone could have been a teacher. We don't always have the patience or the love for little dirty hands. Teachers are fantastic things, but we go into teacher mode. Have you ever found yourself, no, don't do that, but you're doing that different. Please, you are being a teacher, Mom, Dad. Don't be a teacher, be a model. So what we say here is that become an intentional communication partner. How do we become intentional? Jeremy Camp sings a song, "Let me be in the moment." How many times are we actually somewhere else on our phones while our little one is trying to tell us something? But now we've got deadlines and we've got Checker 66 to order and deliver, otherwise I don't have milk for tomorrow's porridge. But that actually robs us from intentionality. So yes, language develops. It's one of the areas that the brain were actually designed by God to develop naturally. Reading, writing, not naturally, it's taught. Listening as well. But language develops naturally. We want to be intentional about it. So, when we are intentional, they found that parents that are responsive, parents that are intentional, remember that little one that will be born soon? When you see them and they go goo 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 and you go, oh, goo goo goo. That is intentionality. In the first 9 months of you being intentional, by the age of 13 to 21 months, they would have reached more milestones. Just in the first 3 years, by parents being intentional. Now, I can keep you busy the whole day, I promise I won't. With how do we do language intentional? One of the easiest ways, and that's a tool I want, next one in your toolbox, songs, rhymes, and everyday routines. Remember in the beginning, I said to you, what do you need? You just need yourself. You've got the routines. You've got bath routine. You've got journey in the car. Very few of us actually walk to school. We're not that privileged anymore. You are in the car, but what happens in the car? You switch on the radio. What's on the radio? Impact, Groot FM, Jacaranda. What if we did not switch on the radio? We actually had a conversation about the big red bus that just passed us, or in our case, the little white buses that just passed us. Let's talk about them. Look how quick they're going. Look, they've got 4 wheels. I wonder how many people were in there this morning. How early did they have to get up? And before you know it, you are at school, but you were intentional to build a bond with your child. Songs. And when we get to the end of this presentation, I'm going to talk about multilingualism, bilingualism, multilingualism. In South Africa and across the world, we don't have only one language in our houses anymore. When I talk about language development, please don't think about English. Think about your mother tongue. Think about the songs in your mother tongue. Think about the rhymes in your mother tongue. When you bath, yes, sometimes it's a big rush and I need to get you clean, so I don't speak. I'm very task-orientated. But talk about, look, you've got 5 toes. Shall we wash every one? Would you like to wash Mommy's hands? I just made dinner. All of a sudden, bath time, every night, every morning, becomes a language rich into action. Songs and rhymes, everyday routines. Now, I'm much older than most of you, so I'm going to show you this clip. And there's a method behind my madness. Have a look here, and then I'm going to ask a few questions again. So that's what we grew up with, not Paw Patrol. And when you looked at that short clip, could you identify the problem? I heard a few giggles. You saw the humor. You could tell me the whole story, right? If you sit down with me now, you can tell me that whole story. Did you hear a word of language being spoken? No. But you followed the whole story. Why? Because our eyes tells a much bigger picture than our ears. So then I have little Lees in front of me, and the parents say to me, they've learned to speak English because they watch TV. They don't. I just proved it to you. When we watch a screen, a TV, a tablet, a phone, our ears literally switches off. You just saw it. I didn't have to put language there for your brain to see the pattern, to see the story, You followed that whole story. You can actually now predict what will happen next. You can tell me what he should have done differently. Yeah, don't go into the cage in the first place, but... So what does that tell us? That, and I'm going to come to the benefits of screens, don't switch off yet. We need to teach our children how to listen, because we grow up in a world that's visually extremely noisy. And when we are visually bombarded with information, our ears do not take in any information or language. So what do? We get down on their level, we look at them face to face, and we start talking. Listening to learn builds auditory processing and attention. Now, auditory processing and attention are the foundational building blocks in literacy. Did you know you do not read with your eyes, but with your ears? Yes, I did not lose the plot, I promise. When I say to you, cat, you've just read a word. But you first have to hear it before you actually see it. Why? Because it's very easy to remember what cat looks like. Let's try a word like gregarious. Can you see that? No. You have to hear it. You have to go, gregarious. Okay, I sort of know how to actually write it. You listen for it. So in literacy, we actually say that if we build listening skills, by activating listening and hearing, we will determine a better outcome in literacy. I don't have to shock you with the statistics that says our matrics, our high school readers are reading at a level for understanding at a grade 4 level across our nation. This study was not done in houses where there were no books. It wasn't done in the rural areas where children do not have the availability of resources. This was done in our societies. Reading at a high school level, grade 4. Because they can read. What did you read? Predict for me. Why did this happen? I don't know. I just read the words on the page. So, if we have the TV on, and then I have parents saying to me, my child does not watch TV. I'm like, then you must have a babysitter because my children watches TV. If it's on in the background, even a radio, but TV's more so because it's visual noise, your child will sit and play, but see how many times their attention is interrupted by looking back at the screen. So, screens are the hidden disruptor, and not in a good way. It actually steals our children's ability to learn language. But, I'm going to go one back, but screens are not all bad. What if you watching, give me shows that your little Lees watch. I can say Paw Patrol, but I've got boys, so what does girls watch? Any shows? Oh, Barbie, I love it. I can remember that, so I'm going to hook on to that. But now I sit next to them and I pause the TV. Why do you think she's decided to wear the blue dress? What do you think is going to happen if she goes on stage to sing her song? Now we're using screens to our advantage. They're not just babysitters anymore. Now look, we all have busy lives and I have to make dinner as well. So the TV is my babysitter when I want to make dinner quickly and not play the policeman in my house with 3 boys wrestling on the floor. But there are times where you can actually use a screen as the springboard for language by being intentional, by sharing the moment of, let's watch this together. Yes, I know you're going to watch Barbie over and over and over again. That's the way our brain learns, and children even more so. Now, we just talked about stories on the TV. How about books? A lot of us did not grow up with books in the house. I didn't have books in my house. My mom was a single mom, so from a financial point of view, we didn't have books. But we had a library. Now, unfortunately, we don't have as many. We still do in Constantia Park. There's a little library that's fantastic. But we have online libraries. When you use books, even if they're on a tablet, make sure that they can turn. So on a tablet, it's the one that you press a button and it turns the page visually. It's not the one with the animated retelling of the story visually. It's the one where a book is actually being turned. Why is reading important? Reading with your child. You heard me not saying to your child, reading with your child. Because in books, vocab, remember we talked about vocab being the biggest predictor of school readiness, 3 times more richer than what we can do. Because books tells us about hibernate, enormous, curious. Do you use words like hibernate in your daily language with your child? I'm very impressed if you do. I don't. Enormous. You're reading a book about the enormous bear and his tiny little mouse friend. Now we get to math. Can you please build me a tower bigger than the other one? It needs to be enormous. I've just crossed my vocab from one subject to another, and the brain makes another connection. Also, by kindergarten, parents reading books, children would have regularly encountered 1.5 million, 1.4 million words more from books alone than they would have in a household where language is rich. So books are extremely, extremely important. What if you weren't a reader, or what if you're not a reader? You weren't read to when you were little. You've got the opportunity to change the legacy of generations to come in your family by teaching your children about books. And if you don't have the paper version, use your tablet, use your phone, but make sure it's still a book and it's not an animated. Now, remember I said to you, don't read to your child, but read with them. Me, at the moment, I'm speaking to you. I'm so sorry, I'm not speaking with you. When we read to our children, we are the teacher. You being mommy teacher. When we read with them, they actually sit on your lap. They sit next to you, and we hold the book to actually read together. Why is that important? In research, they would call it dialogic reading. It's a dialogue because you are talking. You are discussing the story because now you can prompt. What does that mean? What is happening? What do you think this book is all about? The gingerbread man. We look at the cover. Ooh, I see a little gingerbread man. Have you ever had gingerbread? I don't think I've ever bought gingerbread. I think we can go to the store and buy a gingerbread so that you can taste what it tastes like. Haven't even begun reading the book. We're already having a conversation, a dialogue. We can evaluate. Evaluate is not to tell your child they are right or they are wrong. It is to actually go into their world and share their experience with them. Why did you think that? I'm interested. We can expand. Look at the gingerbread man. He's got little buttons. I wonder how they stuck it to him. Maybe icing sugar. Do you think they used jelly tots or Smarties? He runs very, very quickly. How do you think that happened? I don't think gingerbread man can run. And then we can repeat. I said to you, you're going to watch TV stories a lot. You're going to be reading books over and over and over again. It's a good thing. The brain learns by repetition. Think about how you learned to ride a bike. Did you get that right the first time? How many times did you fall? Quite a lot, right? How did you get better at riding a bike or swimming or any, in our days nowadays, how did you learn how to use AI? You made a lot of mistakes first. But you repeat it. You did it over and over and over again. The same with our children. Don't be scared to actually do things over and over again with them. You might get bored, but remember, you've got 20 years plus on them. They still have to go through 20 years of repetition. Now, what they found is that even in just a few weeks of having this dialogue while you're reading, children used more complex language, their vocabulary increased, and it was measurable. Also, the way they told stories, they could see the increase. Now, I've given you a few new tools in your toolbox. So let's have a look at them. Talk elaborately, okay? Expand on what they're seeing. You might think it's just a caterpillar or it's just a rock. Talk about why. Talk about where did you find it? What can you do with it? How can we change this? Those WH questions, who, what, where, why, when. You're going to sing. Use rhymes. You're going to read as it's a conversation. And you're going to protect your quietness by switching off the visual noise. Now, this part of what I shared was very much aimed at ECD, that early childhood development, right? But what if our children are now older? They're now in high school. They don't talk very much then, but we try. Everything that we've just discussed, why? Why are we doing that? Why are we saying, talk to your children, talk intentionally, be in the moment? Ultimately, because we use words for thinking. If we use words for thinking, it must mean that there's an academic language. We all have different jobs, different professions. In your profession as an accountant or a gardener or a horticulturist, the ones that works with plants, you'll have certain vocab that I won't understand. In my profession, I'll have certain vocab that you would need to learn. That's called academic language. That's that curious, hibernate, enormous, gregarious. Words that we don't use every day, but words that our children hear through books, words that our children hear through our language, and it becomes academic because now my teacher will teach me from a foundation that's much higher than where I started, and I can build on that. So, how do we teach vocab? Even in high school. My children are doing math, and they will say to me, oh, we've done, I'm going to use this in Afrikaans because I don't even know the English, factorisering. And I'm like, boys, go and speak to your dad. I can't help you anymore. This is not plus, minus, division, and multiplication anymore. And my husband will laugh at me because he says to me, no, but it is. Yeah, right. When we talk about vocab, we talk about, in high school, different subject matters. Even in primary school, your senior phase, different subject matters. You'll have different words for your sciences compared to your history. How do we teach that? What do you do with it? Where do you find it? What parts does it have? All the things we did when they were little don't stop when they are older. They actually still need you. They just hide it very well. Now, let's look at the power of conversation. First of all, it's teaching our children to make sense about the world around them and to tell stories. Narrative. Tell stories about their day. Tell stories about what they're feeling, what they're experiencing. Explanatory. They can explain something so much better because we worked on vocab deeply. We didn't just teach a word, there's a caterpillar, and we move on. No, the caterpillar has got a few legs. The caterpillar is very hungry. Do you know the caterpillar has got different life cycles? One word, we started with caterpillar. We taught deeply around it because I explained it to my little Lee. Emotional. We are in a society where children's feelings are highly valued, sometimes too much so. And I say that from a very loving point of view because our children need to learn that emotions are important. I need to name them, I need to feel them, but they do not control me. Imaginative. Your imagination were triggered by the black and white movie clip without any words. How do our children write essays? How do they write paragraphs? How do they write sentences in grade 1? Imagination. What do screens do? Do you have to imagine anything? No, it just gives you, it's visual noise. It feeds you. And what we see is that imagination is extremely important for academics. But if we do not foster, if we're not intentional about getting into our child's imagination world, pretend that little rock is an airplane and you're going to shoot off to the moon, then their imagination does not grow. Now, I promise you we're going to talk about multilingualism, bilingualism. It means there's more than one language in a household. I see a lot of families coming into my office saying to me, we're speaking English to our child. And when I ask them, what's your mother tongue? It's not English. Why? Because the world told us that if our child can speak English, then they will succeed at school. There's no research evidence for that, ever. What they show us is that if a child has mother tongue knowledge and they then go to English or Afrikaans or they Zulu at home and they go to Ndebele school, their home language would actually help them succeed better at school because they've got enhanced executive functioning. It means higher cognitive thinking and brain ability. Because they had to compete learning 2 or 3 languages to their counterpart that had to learn 1. Their brain developed better, faster, more robust. But there's a few ways we can do that. The first one is one person, one language. That means you might be speaking one language and your husband another. Keep to the language that you are speaking. Your child needs to learn both. Also, minority language is taught at home. Now, minority language here is from an academic point of view. It means that in our schools, we do not teach our African languages as much, or in a lot of my children's cases, Mandarin or Spanish or Portuguese or Polish. Those languages need to be, with all the tools we just looked at, supported at home. Because if your child in Tswana know the word enormous, they know the concept, it's bigger than usual, I just need to give them the English word. I don't have to teach them the concept. If they know prepositions, on, next to, behind, under, in their home language, if a teacher is teaching them a mathematical question about on or above, she doesn't have to teach the concept. They've got that in their home language. She just needs to give them the vocab. And then we celebrate code switching. This is where they would use both languages in one sentence. Look, mama, ek maak vir my biscuit en melkie. Lovely code switching there. So every word is a triumph. Home language matters. We're going to read together. We're going to play with sounds. That's where rhymes and songs comes in. We're going to talk with intention because we took the time. And if you find yourself needing help, you're going to ask for it. Every new word is a triumph, understanding or using it in any language. Every conversation builds your little one's future. You have everything you need. You don't need an app. You don't need yet another book. The research is clear. Strategies are simple. And the opportunity is yours. In every bath, every meal, every bedtime story, every car journey, little voices grow into big future, one conversation at a time. I think what I learned as a mom, I don't have to spend a lot of money. I don't have to go and climb the Drakensberg this weekend to help my child grow. I just need to sit next to them. Thank you so much for listening. You were a fantastic audience.